Everybody, welcome and thank you for joining us on this wonderful Friday evening, afternoon, wherever you may be within the world. And today we have ourselves another lovely double feature for Faceit League. And Dex, much like Wednesday, we had to do a little moving around, a little shift shuffling, but we managed to get two fantastic games here today from two teams that I think, again, high expectations for going into this entire season. Two teams that I'm happy for, and as we learned from Wednesday, Ragnarok looking like a really strong team to get the season started.
Yeah, we were impressed by them on Wednesday in their victory over Agave Garfo, a team that I think me and you were very highly on, but I think that was just a little bit of a rough start from you definitely saw the little bit of rust in them. However, Ragnarok did not see any rust from them in that game, getting their first win of the season. And I know if you look below us, it says both teams are 2-0. Well, both teams have technically only played a game. With there only being 11 teams in the South American Masters tier, you automatically get a win due to a bye game because there's not an even number of teams. My bad. Pisco Sour, on the other hand, didn't actually play their first game against Element Ice. That was a forfeit victory in that one because I believe at the time Element Ice did not have a full roster. I believe they now have a full roster. We were initially going to cover them tonight, but as of, I believe it was noon or 1 o'clock today, they still did not have enough players on that roster, so we swapped over to this game instead. And this should be a really, really good game. You look at this Pisco roster team, Pisco Sour team here. This is that Dil Patos team from last year. Yes, some of the players have left, but you look at the players they were able to fill those roles that for those ones that left. And Hunter, you might be saying that this is just as good or even maybe a little bit of a better team than this team they had last season.
You know, I think it's worth bringing that up because, again, while it was a really strong team before, I think they have refined it in a couple senses. I think they know exactly the route that they want to go going into the season. And again, it's so significant because we're going to bring this up throughout the entire season. But remember, whoever wins this season of South America Faceit League is going to have a land spot at an upcoming land. We don't know what it is. We can assume, but like I'm going to say many times as well, it's not really worth saying until we actually get full-on confirmation. All these teams know is that, hey, we could be going to land. We could go be in playing against some of the other greatest teams throughout the world. And that in itself is an honor, and it's big, right? Because for some of these other players that might not be able to experience the World Cup in their own right, this is their one chance to go and play on the international stage.
Yeah, but I think right now for everyone on this Pisco Sour team, I believe they are actually into the next phase of the World Cup. Tizzy on Argentina, Bert, LCS on Peru. No, my bad. Chile on Chile. Wed on Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
And Clear, I forget what country he's from, but again, this should be a team that is full of players that are on those World Cup teams. I think you have a couple representations on Ragnarok as well. But Hunter, we can stop yapping here. We can finally get into the game a little bit. We do know what our first map of the night is going to be, and it's a surprise considering on Wednesday we did not see this map at all. Lijiang Tower. Yes, it's still in the map pool, but we started to see a lot of teams, especially towards the end of last season, in regular season and in playoffs, gravitate towards Busan. Looks like, though, Pisco Sour wants to bring us over to Lijiang to get everything started.
Yeah, and we'll see how this ends up going down. Classic map, all things considered. We'll just have to see what route we go down. Bans obviously need to come into effect. Factor X are going to, or I should say, not. Why am I looking at this game? Why is Hunter being a dum-dum? Hunter's being a dummy-do. So it looks like the case for the same anyway. So Hunter's just doing his thing, apparently. But yeah, no, you said Lijiang. We're still locked in here. We'll see what the first ban is coming through. And typically, we tend to go down the routes of, hey, safe bans to get a series started.
Yeah, but especially with this matchup here, these players probably know the other team's players very, very well. So you're going to see targeted bans coming out here early on. And the Sour Squad, well, they do not want to see the Emre. And that's a hero that we saw a lot on Wednesday. It's a hero we've been seeing a lot of recently as well, especially in World Cup stuff, whether it be the Conference Cups or tryouts, show matches. Emre has really started to make a big presence in it. One of the better hit scans right now, you're still seeing it be picked a little bit over Sojourn. However, Soj still definitely does get a decent amount of playing time. I think you're seeing Sour ban out the Emre to force that Soj or potentially even Cassidy play out here on a map like Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, that's just the kind of map it is, so it'll be exciting to see what we get from it as we'll wait for that second ban to go through, and hopefully things will be nice and pretty, as I can probably ignore that invite right there, because I'm assuming that's, yep, that's what I thought. Boop. We'll keep an eye on all the other games going on because, unlike NA later today, there's quite a lot of active games going on. We talked about that Factor X Element Ice game. There's also Element Heaven taking on Micro, and of course, Phantom Fatty's taking on Heist. So we'll see how that goes down. Phantom Fatty's got a good win to get their season started just the other day. So it'll be fascinating to see what they can do. I think there are a lot of teams that have very big punch-up material, and it's going to be exciting to see how a lot of these games go down as we watch the series progress onward.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, especially as the season goes on. Like you said, a lot of teams have punch-up potential throughout the entirety of World Cup tryouts. We got introduced to a lot of new players, and I'm happy to say that we're seeing a lot of those new players actually be in Faceit League this season. And it's going to be really something exciting to see. However, Hunter, we can now talk about the second ban that came out here from Ragnarok. They do not want to see the Zarya here. So I think that really forces these teams into playing something like the Domina. Still, we saw Shigorath, especially in throughout the majority of last series, look really, really good on that. You still see Diva potentially coming out from these two teams. That's just gonna be a really fun thing, though. As you already,
I hope.
Not off to the best start, but I will say this: you have to remember going into this map here, it's gonna be very interesting to see what we see. You have a lot of good dive maps. You have actually a couple good dive maps, a couple good brawn points, but this is a map that I always talk about being an all-rounder when it comes down to it, because you can really play everything on this map just because of how long it's been in the game.
Yeah, and that's kind of the benefit you get from a map like this, ultimately, is just because you know in and out. This is not like, I guess the most recent situation would be an Atlas. As long as it has been out, not everybody knows every single little nook and cranny. Here, you know like the back of your hand. You know where every single health pack is at. I mean, you probably know what's on Lijiang more than you know what's in your own fridge right now. That's the kind of map this is.
You might be right about that phrase, actually.
I think I am. I don't even know what's in my fridge right now.
I know I have water in my fridge. Drink water, everyone.
What? You drink your water ice cold? What?
Man, you know what's cooler than being cool?
Ice cold.
God, we're off to a great start right now. But looks like we're still waiting for one player here from Ragnarok to get into the lobby, so we're going to be waiting on that. But it's going to be really interesting to see what we see in this matchup here. I think Shigorath, especially in that first matchup on Wednesday against Garfo, did show us a lot of great play. The Domino was really impressive. We did see a lot come out from them. However, on the other side, Hunter, we do have to talk about it. Tizzy, one of the tanks I am very high on here in the South American region. I think maybe the best individual tank in the South American region across all the teams here in Faceit, and maybe even across all the country teams as well. It's going to be something fun to see in the later stages of the World Cup. But I think Tizzy's just shown us time in and time out that this is a tank player that knows how to be flexible, and they know how to be really damn good on every tank in the game at any point.
Yeah. Birchel has the glitched on hack symbol above his head. Lovely. It has gone away, though. We'll see what comes to form. And to be fair, for either team, this really shouldn't be shocking. Shigorath was running that Domina all the time in that previous matchup. And to be fair, looked phenomenal on it. Was able to avoid dying in so many occasions where maybe they should have, but their ability to play is outstanding.
Yeah, and I think that was one big thing that really hurt Garfo that last game on Wednesday was the fact that they could not kill Shigorath. I think I went back through after the end of the series to count up how many times they died. I think I said it was 13 throughout the entire 3-map series. That is not a lot for tanks here, but you're seeing the dueling dominance come out here. And outside of that, like going to be sticking with the sim. I like this here early on, but they might eventually have to swap off it here, especially if they don't get off to the best start.
Yeah, we'll have to see how things go right now as Nurshin in over on that Tracer. Able to see what they were able to do in some of the most recent trials and look phenomenal. And they're cutting off Tizzy, who's close to going down, is going to be kept alive for the moment being, though. LCS, though, dropping is going to take away so much of that speed potential. And with Light and Wed falling as low as they are, this could be really tough to hold back, especially as Shigorath, again, gets low, but is kept up. Tizzy, though, is more than happy to stay on this point for as long as possible, but unfortunately, their compliance is no longer going to be a factor here. It's going to be forced off and slowly taken care of, I imagine.
LCS is back, though, and that's the unfortunate part of losing Tizzy. Now you're just going to have to see a disengage here from Pisco Sour. And I will say this, you're going to be seeing that they do have the name Dil Patos. The name change came just before the start of the season, so it might take toward next week before you see something there. LCS, though, will find a boom. Same thing with Ice Volcano.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough as Bert has no support right now, so he's going to probably have to wait for a little bit of care to come up by, and they'll be able to get it. But now Nurshin is going to have this pulse bomb around the corner. Shigarath, though, way ahead on Tizzy when it comes to the Panopticon as well, so if this comes online, I imagine Shigarath is probably going to be a little more aggressive with it as TP is going to come through. And they're start playing for position on that high ground. And for the moment, Yoon down early puts them in a really good position. But Dex, we both know it's going to take a lot more than just the one pick to stop this team. But two should more than likely do it.
However, you need to keep Bert alive here. LCS going to be able to find one pulse one out from Neurochin. Not going to be able to find their target. And now this is going to be the disengage here from Ragnarok. A smart disengage here. However, you're going to see Neurochin stay in because they knew they were not going to get out alive. That's only going to stagger their team here a little bit more, but that will not necessarily stop this Ragnarok team. We saw this team be very aggressive in their match against Garfo on Wednesday. However, you look at the Ultimate Hunter, you're talking about how Ragnarok was in a better spot. Well, now it's already back over to Sour, having already almost all 5 of their ultimates online. Nirison only used their Pulse Bomb last fight. All of those 4 other ultimates here for Ragnarok will be ready.
Yeah, and we'll see how many are going to get pulled right here. Consider Rush is going to force everybody back. Feet comes out, but after the fact, as Shigarath is going to go down early. Panopticon also going to be used out here as it will result in the fight being won. They do use 3 of their ultimates to do it, but again, when you had 2 thrown back at you, I feel like it's worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an even trade, actually. So, like you said, 3 ultimates in 3 for 2 ultra is not necessarily something you want to be on the positive side of there, but you end up coming out on top. You still have your Photon Barrier, which I think is going to be a really, really big ultimate here right now in this fight.
Yep, and good split's going to come through here as well. Nirshit down early, and this assault's just taken down immediately. Consider Rush is going to get next, nothing for them, and they're going to try to burn some people on the way out as Natho somehow just ends up falling off, and the full reset's going to come through, so 60%, and now no Consider Rush. Bert still has to overclock, ready to go for this fight, so it's really going to be on Shigarath going into this next one.
Yeah, but remember, Panopticon, I feel like, has been easily getting counted out by a lot of teams, and everyone understands how to use or how to get rid of it, but the overclock coming out early from Bert as they're on the off angle.
And there they are, but now just waiting for the right moment still. Panopticon ready to go. Nurshin working up to a second Pulse Bomb, by the way. That would be fascinating, especially because Wed, the only person that's really capable of stopping one from going down as planned. But the split's going through, and it perfectly takes care of Niroshin. They're all falling apart, and all you can do if you're Shigarath is start walking towards this point, as Bird's going to be given the solo on the Panopticon. But instead, it's not going to work out at all. It does eventually take care of business, but they know where Shigarath is at, and they're going to force the stop from coming through.
They barely get a touch there just in time. It will be Ice Volcano that is there. However, right now, you still have no numbers advantage, and also you just don't even touch the point. I mean, it was a good start there for Ragnarok, but I was going to say this. I feel like this Pisco Sour team, once they get going, they're going to be a really tough team to shut down because of the players that are on this team. You saw Tizzy, you saw Bert really start to take over some fights there. And Light on this Sim, a little bit unorthodox pick, but I feel like that last point for Sim might be the best on this map, considering we are going over to Gardens now. This is still a good sim point, but I don't necessarily know if you're gonna be sticking with it. Light might just actually stick with it, though. I would not be surprised by that. But outside that, you want to see something here from Ragnarok early. But again, you got off to a really good start last time if you were Ragnarok. And I think it was mostly because I think Tizzy was playing a little bit out of place there. It seemed like there's a little bit of miscommunication with some of the movement. But you see the swaps there. Fars for both sides here. This is going to be really, really interesting. You're now looking more at Natho and Bert to be able to shut them down.
Yeah, and the Pharaoh situation is going to be a lot of fun to see, by the way. We don't get to see a whole lot of Pharaoh, and I'm happy whenever we do. And Amir on top of that will be fascinating to see. But for now, Wed is going to win the Battle of the Kirikos, but it might not matter a whole lot with Tizzy down early in this engagement. You're able to put some bodies over on the point. Unfortunately, I don't think they have the sustainability to really take this fight.
They need to get something going on point, though. Shigorath and the rest of that Ragnarok team was kind of standing outside for them to engage onto it. Ice Volcano going to be able to find LCS out here again, and this should just be the disengagement from Pisco Sour. You cannot really afford to lose anyone else, but you're starting to see them actually play a little bit split here, but you lose WedTube early on, and now, again, I think if you're Pisco Sour, you just need to back up.
Yeah, you're ultimately just going to have to here. But, again, claim on the point coming through. Niroshin already halfway, so it's Light to having that barrage ready to go. And remember that perk, the new major perk over on the far that I think makes her like exponentially more powerful, where someone like Ice Volcano or Yoon has to really mind themselves once they get into the later parts of this map.
Tizzy now maybe getting a little bit too spaced out here. You see him get dove on by 2 members. However, Tizzy will find Shigorath after that there, so there's still an opportunity. LCS gets booped off the map. However, they're playing Lucio. They're going to be able to get back up.
Yeah, and now I think you should be able to lay claim over on this point right here. Cleanup's going to come through, and Natho and Yoon going to be the only 2 to potentially get out here. Still getting chased a bit, but Bert, he's just going to have to play a little safer here, back out. And now Consider Rush available for one side, but Yoon needs to get it up online for this fight.
But look at the change. Tizzy getting off the Domina, going over to the D.Va now instead. I feel like they've been kind of struggling on this map, or this point so far on the Domina. Going over to the D.Va might be a little bit better here for them, but Natho going to be able to find Bert early on with the overclock.
Yep, great way to get your fight going. Consider Rush is still going to be activated. Light goes for the barrage. Gets nothing out of it, though, and now it's just going to be a potential stall game for Tizzy and LCS. As, yeah, they are just going to be cleaned up in time. Tizzy's able to take 1 down with them on the way out, but it won't matter a whole lot here. That's the 2-for-2 roll trade, and neither really worked out at all.
No, they didn't. I mean, it goes back to what we saw last point from Ragnarok, where they invested 2 ultimates into the fight and didn't really find anything there. And yeah, granted, it was Sour that invested 3 and still won it, but now you're looking over at Ragnarok. 3 ultimates about to be online. You're only really going to have the beat in the overclock now for Sour, so you're going to need to play very, very smart here. You cannot afford to lose someone early on. And I just think the biggest problem so far for Sour has been Nourishing on this Pharah.
Ooh. You take an easy trade right there with Bert being taken out, does get Yoon in the process. So now if you're Tizzy, you're trying to track down literally anybody you can, but instead they just have to go to point, which they're going to get the free flip, by the way. And now the question is, what are you going to have to invest here to win this fight?
Well, you have Barrage and you have Panopticon here. If you're Ragnarok, you're in a good spot, and you can see Narishan looking for the opportunity to use that Barrage at a moment's notice.
Yeah, LCS goes down. You're going to see the last second touch come through, boot away momentarily, and they need to back out. And on top of that, they might have to run here. As Light actually gets rid of 2 somehow. That is going to make this very interesting.
And again, they can go in, but you still have to get rid of this Domina from Shigorath. We've seen what they've been able to do on it in the past, especially against Garfo. Yeah, they had a little bit of a struggle that first map, and now they have all the perks. I think they're in a much better spot.
Oh, yeah, and we're going to see that flip come through here, but Shigorath gets rid of 2 really reliably, is going to be able to run in. Actually doesn't get the pack, and now that flip, for a second there, it was just momentary relief, but now he puts them in a great position.
Yeah, really great position. I like Bert also swapping off the Soj, going over to the Cassidy instead. A little bit of a better option to shut down the Pharah. You know where the shots are going to be going most of the time here, and we've seen what Bert's been able to do on any of the hit scans in the past. This is, I'm going to say, a little bit of an even trade across the board here, but you do have the overclock coming online here for Natho. Granted, though, you're walking into 3 ultimates on the other side, and this could be final fight if Ragnarok does take it a little bit slow here, Hunter.
Yep, and Light is obviously going to try to look for some kind of barrage. He's going to move in and get separation onto Shigorath, and now that could be the beginning of the end. Nice little knockdown as Tizzy sends Natho into the dust, and last one taken out is Vice Volcano. And unfortunately, no one's going to be able to reach at this point. Shigorath, try as they might, isn't going to have the opportunity. So first round here, done and dusted, and it's going to be a fantastic 2-0 to get started.
Yeah, a really good 2-0 there for Piso Sour. They got off to a slow start on the first point of Control Center, but after that, once they took control of the point, they never really looked back. It was still a little bit back and forth here on Gardens, but I think this swap that Tizzy made over to the D.Va, and especially a little bit later, Bert over to the Cassie, I think ended up helping them out a lot there. I think we've seen it in the past. Tizzy is very, very comfortable on D.Va, going up into the Domina, which we have kind of seen go the way of Domina in the past, has been a little bit interesting, but that was a really good play. I think you really saw they were focusing in on the backline instead, and that's one thing that the Domina really cannot do. They cannot peel quickly. They kind of just have to hold their ground wherever they are, and normally Domina is trying to take as much space as they possibly could. I think that's where they kind of got punished there towards the end of that second point and the end of the map, but still, it was really back and forth. This could definitely be one of those series that finds its way maybe to 4, maybe all the way to 5.
I think it very well could, and it will be fascinating to see because that is a very back and forth sequence, but also there's really good late game play when it comes to what you can do in a scenario like this. So Ragnarok, they certainly fought back, but man, it got really rough in some of those latter fights where, again, both of the final fights that they had, they were severely down on their ult economy.
Yeah, and they were, but at the same time, I think you started to see some ultimates come out there from Peace of Sour that started to actually find the value. You can remember Light's first barrage not finding anything, found some there towards the end. You got that Consumer Rush out as well, and that I think was just a little bit too much for Ragnarok to really deal with. Yeah, they were coming up to the ultimates pretty soon, but that's normally one of those situations where I say like, hey, this team has the advantage, they need to push it, and they actually did it without me saying it though, but they pushed it, and that's where it was. I think Peace of Sour really ended up winning that map there. And you can go back to Control Center as well. They were playing aggressive. We've seen both these teams, especially Ragnarok on Wednesday, when they have a good lead, no matter what the mode is, they like to play up a little bit. They like to play aggressive. They know when to back out, though. However, when you're trying to flip the point or get something going your own way, you don't necessarily have those options. And I think you kind of saw it there on that first point. Ragnarok was kind of struggling when they were getting that same pressure kind of dealt back towards them.
No, they 100% were. It's rough in that sense right now. So the question is, what are you going to do to supplement what has happened? We'll kind of see the way things have gone through, if there's any swaps. We did see before from Ragnarok, Lishu did come in for a map or two during their original series, so we'll see if we go down that round. To be fair, the swaps did work really well for them. And the one thing to talk about with this squad is also their willingness to swap if they feel like, hey, this is not working. We are happy to go to something else. You didn't really get to see it in that sequence outside of, I think it was really just the Forest swap. But this was a team before where they got shut down. They made a whole comp swap, and then they never looked back from there.
Yeah, again, I think that's gonna be one of the best features of both these teams here, is that they know when to make those changes. You saw Tizzy go over to the D.Va. They lost the first fight against the Dominant, but they came right back in, changed up how they were gonna play, not focusing in on the Dominant, instead focusing on everyone else. And kind of like how I already said, once Dominant pushes up and takes space, she can't necessarily peel back quickly enough to save those other heroes. And that's where we saw LCS and Tizzy both find a very early pick there in that fight to get everything going their way. And that's been one thing that Peace of Sour has been able to do so good. Once they find one, they have that comfortability. They know they have the advantage. They start to play a little bit more aggressive, and you normally see them find that next one, which is a very, very good thing to have if you're a team here. But still, we do know our next map will be Atlas. It will be the Vendetta band coming out from Ragnarok. However, you're seeing now Peace of Sour getting rid of the Zarya going into our second map of the night.
Yeah, and something went wrong clearly. We'll find out what that is in a hot second. Honestly, your guess is probably as good as mine. Maybe someone either didn't mean to make a swap or meant to make a swap, because we did see Lishu did get subbed in for Neuroshin, which is something I was going to bring up next. But who knows? I'm sure we'll find out very momentarily. We've had scenarios like this where either the wrong thing was picked and someone said something, or whatever have you may. We'll see in a second here what the situation is.
Yeah, and luckily we do know at least one person on each of these teams.
We know a lot of people on these teams.
Yeah, we should. If they have to manual lobby it, we should at least be able to get into it. But like I said, you did see at the end of that last map, I did say Dil Pados won. Again, the name Peace of Sour did come in relatively just before the season started, as the Cafe Org did pick up this team. So that will probably change going into next week, but still off to a good start here right now. Ragnarok going into a map like Atlas, I think it's gonna be really interesting. We've seen Atlas, I feel like, a decent amount now that's in the map pool, replacing Saravasa, isn't it? Or is it replacing New Junk?
You know what? That's a good question. I can bring up the maps. I can bring them
please
up.
Have the graphic.
So let me go ahead and bring up all the maps that we have and do a little fun session here as we see the game fixing itself. We'll reconnect, but we'll still bring them up really quickly. So Control, we got Busan, Lijiang, and Oasis. For Flashpoint, Atlas, and Saravasa. For Hybrid, there's Blizzard World, Midtown, and Nubani. For Push, it's Runasapi and Esperanza. And then Escort, we have Havana, Rialto, and good old Gibraltar. So I think this is a rather good mix right here. It's good that we've stepped away from some of the maps that have been in there since I joined the other game. There's something going on.
I'll quickly try to get back into this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to best I can. How do I do it now? Oh my god.
Custom games, and then there should be a Faceit tab.
Oh yeah, you are right.
Yeah, but as we head into Atlas here, and as Hunter tries to resolve the problem. Like you said, it is Lishu coming back in for Ragnarok this time around. And you did say Neuroshin did play one map last series before getting swapped out for Lishu, before Lishu came in. And it worked very well for them. Again, I think Garfo was just having a little bit of an off night, and we even kind of saw that from after the fact. But coming into this map right now, actually, we do have a sub coming in.
You're gonna
Do I
have to do the
share
thing.
screen?
You're gonna
Yeah.
have to do the thing. Yeah, that's not gonna be fun. Yeah, just quick fix since yeah, that's really unfortunate. But we're getting into this thing really quickly. Promise, gang. Big promises in the chat. Thank you very much.
Clear is coming in for Tizzy.
Oh, so that's really fascinating to see, actually.
Really, really interesting. It means that maybe Clear might have either they're trying to get Clear some time here, or Clear might just be a little bit better on this map, especially with the Diva. However, you do see Shigoroth go right back over to the Dominant, and you have to remember now that the Emre is back in play this map, you're seeing both the hit scans going straight over to the Turkish hit scan.
Yeah, we'll have to see how things end up going down in this engagement right here over on Atlas. Should be fascinating to see. As a little bit of O's in the chat. But hey, we're getting the fight started. You see Ice Volcano trying to be a little aggressive right there. Lictat managing us. I gotta say, Lictat light over on the point. You know what? We're locking back in as they're trying to just rally themselves on Clear once they kind of just create a little bit of room to work with right now. But again, walking into the Domina is not going to make things any better. Make sure you hit control. As you see, at least for the moment, Point getting ready to flip over Dex, but still a couple of trades coming through. Yoon doing their best to be able to survive in here. Just eventually is going to get taken out. And if Clear can stay in the mech, this should be Pisco Sour very simply.
Yeah, they need to clean this up right now. Leash, doing a good job of stalling out this point, but eventually they will fall back. However, you already do see Shigoroth coming back into this fight here. And actually, no one capped the point there. I actually thought Ragnarok capped it, but no, a good fight there by Pisco Sour to be able to not even give up the point right there. Now, Shigoroth getting taken down very early on. This is exactly what I think you want to be doing here if you're Pisco Sour, is just chunking down this Domina as fast as you can here. So now you just start to see the entirety of Ragnarok rotate around.
Yep, that you will. We'll see how it ends up going down. Light does have a pulse bomb already ready to go. And speaking of that, Spurtles are here as well. LCS is going to be able to hit that beat right back. Catches 4 members, and with Yoon down, no long-term sustainability left here for Ragnarok. They're going to get pushed back. And unfortunately for Shigoroth, they'll have to suffer a little late death here. Natho is literally running for the hills trying to get out of here. And this late death could be enough to stall things out. But Wed gets the headshot. And with this many like deaths, touching again, I think is becoming an impossibility.
No, and again, you see Pisco Sour is pushing straight up here. And this is what we expect from them. They want to take that space. Both these teams want to take space when they can. And Wed finding picks here, that's something that we should expect from them. We know they are not afraid to necessarily put themselves in a spot of a little bit of danger just to make sure they can find potentially 1 or 2 picks out there. And WedTube might be one of the best damage dealing supports in the region.
Honestly, they might just be. I think that's really fair to say. But they'll get the first point. Able to start moving on forward. We have the 4-for-4 ult coming up here, and Burt is being really aggressive. Natho is also being really aggressive to get things started, but Natho is actually the first one to go down. And now with this in display, Burt's helping a bit with the cleanup squad. As well, these are technically early deaths. I think that should really lock in at this point for Pisco Sour.
I mean, the point's not going to open up just yet. You could see Ragnarok come in very quickly here, especially with 3 ultimates to their name. They could play very, very fast here. And you're going to see, I think, a fight actually break out here before point opens up.
We'll have to see, obviously, where things end up going. As point will go in their favor. Burt's in a bit of a rough position, though, eventually. Will end up falling over, but you take a bit of a trade, and you don't hate this. LCS, if they live a while, well, actually, they will live a while longer. They'll be able to build up quite a bit more, as Kitsune Rush was used a bit earlier to make some more of that space, and space is definitely what it made.
And now Leisha, the only one left alive. It will be WedTube taking care of them here. And like I said for WedTube, maybe one of the best damage dealing DPS or supports in this region. LCS might also just be up there as well for being one of the most aggressive supports or aggressive Lucios in this region. I've said it in an interview that I thought LCS might just be one of the best Lucios I've seen with how aggressive they're able to play and still be able to stay safe here. But now, if you're Ragnarok, you're looking for something here pretty early on. Pulse Bomb not going to be able to find anything from Leisha. Light, they're going to be able to clean them up.
Yeah, they're trying to get a flip in the backline right now. Looks like they're going to be able to get the momentary flip, so that is going to save them some time. And now Shigoroth is looking to maybe find something with the Panopticon, but their support line is just getting harassed. Ice Volcano's already down. Yoon is lucky to still be standing, as eventually they're going to get some really good cleanup here. Shigoroth is just going to have to die over on the point. Lishu, last one hanging in there, needs to get out alive because they were probably going to have to be the touch.
Hey, Hunter, quickly turn up the screen share. But I mean, right now, if you're looking for a touch here right now, Nathan getting taken out pretty early on there by Wed, but Clear, mostly the person who did all the damage there. I don't think you're going to see another touch come out here from Ragnarok now, as they're just going to get set up for the third and potentially final point of this one here is Clear. You can tell they're very excited about that. But because of the spawn swaps, you're actually going to see, I believe, this Ragnarok team get set up a little bit earlier here now. And I think that's exactly what you should do here. Get set up, force Piece of Sour to be the ones attacking into this.
That's what you would think kind of going to this one. It's already 2-0, already in a good position, beat used aggressively by LCS as well. You just try to find some kind of pick off of this, of course. Ice Volcano will be able to go down, as this has been a really good game for them. Here's Light, another good cleanup. They'll lay claim to this third point as well and keep rocking and rolling forward.
Yeah, I love swapping to just dead people. But again, another good start there. And like I said, if you're Ragnarok, I think you need to get set up. But I think LCS did the right thing there that you could have possibly done. You push the aggression right there. You use that beat. You go in knowing Ice Volcano didn't have theirs. But now you look over the other side here. Ragnarok, they're going to have 4 ultimates coming in this next fight. However, same thing could be said here for Piece of Sour, as outside the beat, they're going to have a lot of tools in their utility belt.
Yeah, that they 100% will. You see Bert trying to take the aggressive route over here with the override protocol. Hits Lishu right in the face. So that's going to make them plenty of time to work with right here, as unfortunately time is becoming a factor that's not working very well here for Ragnarok. They are getting run down. You're not going to get any blows off for this, but you are going to force this to final fight territory.
Yeah, and still, though, you're going to have all 5 ultimates ready to go here. If you're Ragnarok, you're in a good spot, and you get rid of WedTube, who's been a constant problem this entire map. Not only with damage, but healing as well here. 5 ultimates to their name. They had to play this one almost perfectly, but finding LCS out again. However, you lose Yoon, and you lose your support. Both support lines out.
Yeah, but still, you get a couple of really good picks. LCS is going to take a hot minute to get back into this fight, but Clear and Light both have their bombs sitting by. You have space to make, so all the point has flipped for now. Ice Volcano is pretty much on a mad dash back to help out the team, as Pulse Bomb from Lishu gets nothing.
Yeah, now I see just immediately Sour going right in. Nathos getting everything started with their own override.
Yep. Trying to make a little bit of space right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to get anybody out of it. Again, it is clearing space, though. That is a very valuable thing in this setting. But with those bombs still online, beacon used by Ice Volcano. And now as... Oh, that is not good timing at all.
Maybe some of the worst timing you could possibly have that here. That this fight was going to be big here for Ragnarok. If they come out on top, you could probably guarantee that this could be the fight that wins them this point. But now... I mean, they have Panopticon. They're going to be going right back to spawn. They're going to lose that ultimate. And you look over at the other side, bomb, pulse bomb, and another override protocol not that far away. But you're already down in your tank now. Ice Volcano very low after using that beat. This is not looking good here right now for Ragnarok Hunter. They're going to need a miracle whenever this unpauses to be able to hold on to this point.
Well, the bright side is also Volcano is literally in the process of the Stone Barrier hitting the crown and already activating. So that will go off. So what you're probably going to have to do in a scenario like this is probably focus on survivability. Bert, I don't know where they're specifically at, but if they could be taken down, great. If they can't be, I think your prioritization is trying to get everybody out of here and set up Lishu for one more push, or one more touch, I should say, once it flips over.
Yeah, it looks like the connection problems are continuing to happen right here. I mean, we saw this on Wednesday as well.
Yeah.
Again, we know this might be a thing here in South America and North America, but it looks like both joining back in at the same time, so they must be near each other, being able to just sync up like that. However, now you just lost your Lucio, your speed, if you're Ragnarok. So, yeah, you might just basically be dying on point here if you're them at this point.
I feel like I know what's going to happen from here, but I'll keep my inner thoughts there, but it'd be really funny. But yeah, we'll see what happens. For everyone else here, besides Natho, everyone else should be able to get out of this situation because no one else is really in as deep as those two originally were. But still,
the problem is right now Ragnarok is actually rotated back towards Piece of Sour side of the map, so they are in deep.
You make a reasonable point. So again, as we're kind of back into this right now, biggest thing is Lishu needs to stay alive. It's what needs to happen. Also, is that actually, wait, well, we'll talk about that in a second, because that's a fascinating fact. But the point's gonna flip back over with Lishu dead. I mean, Dex, I don't know what you say at this point, because they're getting pushed back, and unfortunately, a touch here is looking like it's not gonna happen, as that bomb's gonna close this one out.
Yeah, it's going to close it out. An unfortunate way to end this map there for Ragnarok. But, I mean, you could look at the first 2 points there for Piece of Sour and say that they were going to end up winning this map, even if Ragnarok was going to be able to come back and take this 3rd point. However, you never know what happens if stuff like that does happen. You could see a team immediately come back and turn the map around with a reverse sweep. We've seen it multiple times before, but WedTube getting plate of the game. Again, like I said, maybe one of the scariest damage dealing supports in the region.
Yeah, has been really difficult to deal with as... Hey, guess what? Yeah, don't have to deal with that, huh? As we can close that out and we can refocus in on what's going on here. But yeah, regardless of anything, it is now 2-0. They put themselves over on match point. And we're getting things going really quickly here already, Dex. We know we're going to be heading over to Esperanza. But the real question is, for Ragnarok, who definitely had some, sensitive struggles in their previous matchup, this time, they're hitting the proverbial brick wall more often than not. So, what is the adjustment here? Because we know this team's willing to adjust. They just haven't really done so quite yet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially as we will be heading into Esperanza. D.Va, though, being banned out, does that mean Tizzy comes right back in? Clear, I thought, played an excellent D.Va in that last map. I mean, they looked incredible. And I think that's something very scary about this Piece of Sour team, is that the fact that they might have 2 very, very scary tanks, which are the rest of the region, the other 10 teams, are not going to be happy about. But the proverbial wall like that you're talking about here, again, you go back to Shigorath. You remember how good of a series they had Wednesday. They took over that series every map. You haven't seen that yet from them. And again, you could look at the DPS line as well. I feel like the DPS line, Natho, Yoon, and Lishu looks like it will be Natho, Nuroshin, and Lishu coming have been playing that DPS line so far. And you will be seeing Nuroshin come back in for this potential final map of this series. I think you need to start looking at them a little bit here. They need to be able to find that backline. They need to be able to take those off angles a little bit, because you've been seeing Bert and Light doing that constantly throughout this series so far, and they've been able to find success.
Yeah, they have found a ton of success thus far. We did see D.Va ban went through, but also the Wuyong one comes through as well, which made this really interesting because Light is still staying in over Tizzy moving forward, so we'll see what that changes up. And I imagine... Man, what route do you go down now in this situation? Because it seemed like before is actually... Okay, yeah, I'm seeing what I'm seeing. It'll be fascinating to see. Nuroshin also coming back in for Lishu for this next map as well. So we'll just have to see what goes down, Dex, as we're getting ready to head into this 3rd and final map of Esperanza. And it will be fascinating because with a D.Va gone, with you keeping, the same tank in, it will be interesting what they decide to go with here.
Yeah, keeping Clear in is definitely telling us something here, that they're going to try to show us something a little bit more than just the D.Va, because like I said, that D.Va last map looked incredible. You're bringing Nuroshin back in, who I think, again, comparing the two, I think had a little bit of a better performance than what Lishu showed us last map, but this is a completely different map, completely different mode, and now you're back into a push map, especially one like this where it's very dive heavy going to Esperanza. You ban out the D.Va. Does that mean you're going to be seeing the Winston? Does that mean you're going to be seeing something else come out here? Time will tell. But at least looks like Clear for the moment. Going to be showing us the Orisa. Shigorath going back and forth between the Domina and the Winston here. But outside of that, no big shocks. Actually, no, Light on that Vendetta. Vendetta was banned out last map. I think Vendetta's really strong on Atlas. However, it's going to be really interesting to see how they play it here, especially if Clear is going to be sticking with... Nope, there it is. Over to the Domina themselves. But Shigorath, they're not going to be swapping. They're going to be sticking on the Winston.
Yeah, that they will, and I'm fine with that little Winston action here in 2026. But the Domino versus the Winston is a really interesting encounter, because it feels like if you're Shigorath, you want to do everything you can to avoid Clear, but just because you have to doesn't mean you're going to be able to do so as... Oh my god, Bert gets the connection over onto Nuroshin, and already no Tracer available for Ragnarok, as without that, I mean, you're going to see Shigorath just have to back out, and lucky to still have their head intact.
Still lucky to be alive here. Nathan not going to be able to say the same exact thing here. Yoon and Shigorath looking for the escape, but you're going to see Light to try to chase him down here. However, they're both able to get out with their lives here. Not going to be able to, they're going to, just because they're going to be able to keep their a good amount of progress pushing on this cart right now. You do see a little bit of a regroup here, and yeah, Shigorath just giving up on the Winston after one life. Going to go over to the Domina instead. I think once they saw Clear playing it, they wanted to be able to match it. I bet you they were expecting to see the Winston mirror come out, but not going to be able to see it this time.
Nope, not this time around. We'll see what ends up going down. In exchange, though, as Yoon already down early, and they're starting to try to cut through some bodies left and right. Already 44 meters into this one, as Nurshin has gone down once more. And this should just be a free claim to the point. And I feel like I've said it so many times, but that feels like the fastest camp I've seen in a long time.
A minute 22? I might have to be up there with you, Hunter. That might be the fastest that I've seen in a while as well. But you lose light here. It's gonna be really interesting to see how much Sour stays in this fight.
Yeah, because Clear's still hanging in here right now, and with that death, I don't know. The possibility is definitely there, but you see Burt gonna be forced back a little bit more Nurshin right around the corner from having this post bomb ready to go. But you have a Deadeye here for Burt to potentially buy some more space, but you still have to kind of play with it, because Deadeye, as good as it can be, it's really easy to interrupt.
Well, Deadeye comes out right there, but I think it was just immediately used to buy some space. Same thing with the Amp Matrix. I like this play coming out here from Ragnarok. However, you see that lead slowly getting up to 90 and going to be nearing 100 meters here soon, Hunter. You're going to see the ultimate star coming out here from Ragnarok. They need something to go their way fast.
Yeah, catches on to Yoon with that Panopticon as Nurshin. You see the pulse bomb go on the back, doesn't catch on to any targets. Wet, though, does eventually go down as a direct result, so this is becoming winnable, but you see Rally being thrown out there is going to help get rid of Ice Volcano, but still LCS forced to the corner, is somehow still standing, will eventually have to fall over as they're starting to clear out bodies left and right, but it really is only just 2 left over on the point, so even though they're going to win this fight, this progress should be limited from here on out.
It should be, but I mean, I imagine you're going to see Clear and Light stay in this fight as long as they possibly can. You're going to have Wed and LCS get back very quickly as well, so not really even going to back up much here. And they're coming up to ultimates as well. That Sundering Blade going to be online here momentarily, but the beat and the Override Protocol about to be online here for Ragnarok. So this is the time to turn around this map. It's now.
Yeah, we'll have to see what ends up rocking and rolling here as Clear has gone down, so the first sense of relief for Ragnarok so far, as they're going to be able to start cleaning up bodies left and right, but everyone knows to die over on this point, because with all these deaths coming through, everybody gets good spawns, and you go back into this fight with the Sundering Blade.
Sundering Blade, but that's about it. You still have the Override Protocol and the Pulse Bomb about to come up here for Ragnarok. Like I said, though, that fight needed to be the moment that you kind of started to turn this map around if you were them. One fight going your way is good. Now you need to be able to kind of chain that into a second and a third. Honestly, Hunter, they need to be able to get just the checkpoint off of these next couple engagements here, or else they're going to have a long road ahead of them.
Yeah, that they will. We'll have to see what ends up going down, as already has Shigareth is this time. I've noticed something. Do you want to hear my theory really quick?
Go ahead.
It's a very clear theory. From all the disconnections we've seen, doesn't matter the team, have we ever had one from the left side of the screen?
We did on Wednesday. We did on Wednesday.
We did
on Wednesday. I understand. I know where you're going with it, but we did. So we're just gonna keep it at that and leave it there.
I don't think you do know where I'm going with it. I feel like you think I'm going a certain way, but no. I'm just saying it might be a literal thing with just the red side in general. I think that's a very real possibility, honestly.
That would just be rough. That would just be rough, buddy.
Yeah, that's a really rough thing to go through. And this is especially rough because you just lost with Natho, so maybe you can argue, oh, maybe this fight could have been lost anyway, but now it's just really lost. You can't do a thing here except for either die on the point or get out.
Yeah, and I mean, Shigareth going to be able to get back into the lobby right now. They're going to try to stall this one out as long as they can here, but Burt already finding 2, looking for a third. However, it's going to be cleaned up right there, and what was looking promising sadly just falls apart, because not only do you lose the Override Protocol there as Burt was able to shut them down, you also lose whatever percentage Shigareth had there on their own Panopticon. So Pulse Bomb ready to go, but you're now walking into about, say, 4 ultimates by the midpoint of this fight. Going to be ready here for Piece of Sour.
Yep, and now Sundering Blade's still available. Light's going to go for it, and it's going to force everybody back here as Shigareth is just going to be sliced and diced through, as that 113 is about to get a little higher. Good read there comes through as Pulse Bomb going to miss out. Nurshin still hanging in there, but eventually will fall as his 120 meter is going to keep going, and now final fight territory potentially.
Yeah, and you don't really have anything coming online here for Ragnarok other than Yoon's Kitsune Rush. You're going to have to get something out here early on, though.
Yeah, trying to, but Clear are beginning to come through. It's just Noon and Yurshin around. Kitsune Rush is going to be used, but Yurshin being the last one remaining is rough, as Burt is just literally standing in front of the gate doing the cowboy, as we see more coming through, as they're going to keep getting a couple of touches over here online, but It really does feel like it's just going to be a temporary solution here as everybody forced back. They'll be cleared away. This will be a quick one for Pisco Sour as they win 3-0.
Yeah, and again, we came into the series here tonight talking about this should be a really close one. We saw what Ragnarok was able to do to Garfo a little bit on Wednesday, but I saw, like I said, and like both me and you kind of thought, it was Garfo maybe having a little bit of a rough game, shaking off that rust, while Ragnarok, they didn't have really that much rust to shake off from what we saw. This was their first true challenge of the year. This was also Pisco Sour's first game of the year as well, because remember that Element Ice game was a victory via forfeit here. But again, they look like the team that won the championship last year, the team that went undefeated, even with the players that left to go play on other teams. You immediately come back in, reload with a couple new players. Clear looked incredible. Tizzy looked great here tonight as well. This Pisco Sour team is going to be a team that is going to be scary. Not only to, I think, every team in this region, and maybe some teams outside, but hey, they have to focus on this region right now.
Yeah, they definitely need to, but hey, it's a really good performance for Pisco Sour in this engagement. We'll see how things kind of proceed forward with them as we kind of look at who they have next coming up here. If I'm not mistaken, if the thing will load up properly, the next game is going to be up against Fallen Eclipse this coming Wednesday. And then after that, Agave Garfo. So, two interesting games. We haven't seen Fallen Eclipse yet, so we don't know how well they're quite going to do. But that will make for a very interesting game. But Ragnarok, I think, is going to be the really interesting one because they're going up against Factor X coming up here. And I'll have to check in on that other game right now, which I'm about to do. But Factor X feels like they're in a really interesting spot right now as a team.
Yeah, I mean, we came into the season having some high hopes for them, but we didn't necessarily know what to expect from them. That's going to be a thing with a lot of these teams. A lot of these teams, the rosters are not the same as last season. Players went to other teams. Teams pick new players up. It's gonna be really fun to see as the season goes on. There were a couple teams that were able to kind of keep a core. I think only a couple teams also was able to keep a 5 or 6 player lineup they had from last season as well. And I think you can see those teams kind of flourish early on, but they really need to start off hot here, much like where you're seeing Pisco Sour get started off here. Technically, this does bring them up to 3-0, but this was only their second game of this season. Ragnarok still going to be 2-1, still one of those top teams here going into next week.
Yep, 100%. As we kind of talk about things there, Factor X, Element Ice, they are on hold right now. Not sure what for, but we'll see how that goes down. But in terms of the other games today, obviously we have that, and then High Speeds Phantom Fatties 3-0. Really interesting game, which I didn't notice this last night. We talked about Fallen Eclipse and Agave Garfo, how they had a game last night. That went 5 map stacks.
Ooh.
That's crazy. 5 maps and Garfo pulled it out.
Hey, I mean, I think this is going to be a really competitive season here for South America. I called last season the most competitive that we saw. I think this is going to be just as competitive. And I don't think you're going to see the same amount of, you're not going to see 2 or 3 2-loss teams make playoffs this time around. You're definitely going to see a couple teams with more than 2 losses make playoffs this season. I have to believe that because this looks like the most competitive season so far. Like I said at the start of the stream, you're seeing a lot of those players that were doing trials for their countries and the World Cup stuff coming into play Faceit. So I think you're going to see a lot of new, fresh competition looking to try to knock off some of these top teams.
I think you definitely will, and it'll be fascinating to see where they kind of all go from there, because, again, there are some incredibly strong teams going into things this season. Again, there's a lot on the line. It's much like what we saw back in Season 5, where there was just this incredible lineup of stacked talent that was in there, doing everything they could just to be able to go and play at LAN that year. And now I think this is the exact same situation, so we'll see how these teams proceed forward, but there are a couple matches that I know we are destined to see in the future, and I'm going to be really excited for. And I know, of course, Tex, you will be as well, but fortunately that is another quicker one here for the South American region and just for the week in general. But hopefully we get a little something, as we still have one more game a little later on tonight. Vicity taking on Interesting Pivot. That's happening about an hour and change from here at 9 p.m. EST, so that should be a really fun game. It's still a game on, to be fair, but I think it's still going to be a really good game to kind of take a good look, because while we've seen a good look of Vivicity, a team we really wanted to see, it's going to be the exact same case with Interesting Pivot.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that one. I want to see Vivacity if they're able to kind of carry that momentum from their win on Wednesday. And this interesting pivot team came up from Expert last season in NA. I want to be able to learn a little bit more about these players. And I think tonight is going to be they're going to be able to do just that.
Yeah, I 100% think they will. Make sure you go and shoot us for that game going on later on tonight. It's definitely going to be a fun time. I'm really excited for it. But we'll see you off that game later tonight. If not, we hope you'll have a good one. And we'll see you next time for some more Faceit League action. Take care.